Good morning, everyone. Welcome once again to Zen Minded Men. We're your hosts. I'm Sensei Gulley Jr.
Good morning, I'm Sensei Vincent Ellis. This week, going down the list of the 7 virtues of Bushido, we're going to be speaking on compassion. The definition that I settled on, I think fits where we're going with exploring it as far as how it relates to us and our training in martial arts and outside the dojo. Uh, Compassion defined as care and kindness toward others, care and kindness, especially when we think of the needs of others. As we were discussing, compassion is definitely not simply pity or empathy. Compassion calls you to action, where the others may simply just be what you emote, whether you do anything about it or not. Compassion is a call to action. So I think that's where we're going to go with the conversation today.
Definitely. And like as you mentioned, empathy, more or less the definition on empathy is it's the ability to feel and relate to a feeling of suffering in others. You can, a lot of us, especially during this time now with COVID going on and political upheaval and everything that's happening as far as like racial injustice and intolerance and all this, you can empathize with what someone is going through. I can empathize with the plight of someone who's sick, or I can empathize with someone who's been racially profiled, but it not necessarily mean I'm going to do anything. Compassion, on the other hand, if I have a feeling for that suffering, I say, you know what, you're going through something. What can I do to help you? Compassion will definitely make you want to rise to the challenge, to rise to the occasion. Like Sensei Ellis says, it is a call to action. And I think that in the dojo, one of the ways that we learn compassion is well, it's a martial sport. It's a sport where you're going to train and you're going to get hurt, whether it be through a technique or overstretching or whatever. And you want to have compassion for your fellow martial artists, or karateka as we call them, because you're not in the dojo by yourself. Sensei Ellis and I are training, and if I fall to the ground and he sees I'm hurt, he's going to say, you know what, he's hurt. What can I do to still help him training, but let him know? I say, hey, man, we still got to train. What can I do to help you? And vice versa. And you learn that in the dojo, and it's something that you carry outside of the dojo. When we're both family men, we're both Christians, so we're going to be compelled to have compassion in our everyday lives anyway. But having that compassion, it really makes you not only understand what someone's going through, but it makes you want to step in. It makes you want to make things better. It makes you want to make the world better or a situation better. You know, that's my take on it. You know, now Sensei, what how do you feel on that?
Looking back, historically speaking, this whole Bushido code kind of goes back to feudal Japan, and the samurai being a class of person in feudal Japan, they were one of the ways in which they were paid for their service was in land. So they were landowners and an elevated class. Beneath them, they had serfs, a peasant class that worked their land and, made a living from their land. And as a warrior, as the lord of their lands, I think compassion would have played a serious role, because it was up to that warrior class to protect those underneath them, right? That's one of the things that people who have strength should always consider, and if this being October, we're winding out October and the anti-bullying month, positions of power shouldn't be used to lord over other people. Positions of power should be used to help elevate or educate those below you. And I think in a dojo in particular, if you're in the right environment, there's always going to be bad examples. I've got more mileage out of this quote from Master Adams than any other, but I'm sure you've heard this: nobody's useless. You can always serve as a bad example.
This is true.
So one of the things that in the dojo, we've talked about this in the past. You have that senpai kohai, where we're always bringing along those that are, you know, of lesser time or in the dojo, and bringing them up behind us, whether it's, in the Q ranks or in the Dan ranks. There's always going to be those that have slightly more skill, regardless of rank, or certain advantages, whether it be athleticism or physical ability. In the dojo is where we need to foster that mindset of compassion, to where when you have that advantage, you want to impart as much as you can of that to those around you, because we're more or less a tribe, right? And we want to strengthen the tribe, not weaken the tribe. So it's like I tell my students all the time, we want to go hard enough that we don't break each other down, but at the same time, we're all getting stronger. We're all getting stronger. So I think the root of that is compassion.
I agree. And I like that what you said with the dojo. One of the little idioms that I kind of made it up myself. It's like whenever I'm doing something or you're working, you want to go hard enough to hone it, but not hard enough to fracture it. It's like a blade. You want to go when you're tempering that metal, you heat it just enough to temper it and smooth it and get it, but not overheat it where it fractures and cracks. And that's what every day, anything you're doing. And one of the quotes that I endear myself to, and me being the nerd that I am, I'm a comic book lover, and I have to give props to Stan Lee for one of the best quotes that simplifies everything. And that's through Spider-Man. With great power comes great responsibility. And with great power, you must have compassion. If you have a power to do something, then you need that compassion, because that is what's going to allow you to, as you said, reach back and pull others up so they can acquire that power, that knowledge, that skill. And one of the things that I think we're losing sight of, if you look at the news and you look at like your politicals, and a lot of our politicians are losing sight of that. It becomes a power game where you're more concerned about getting the power, getting the vote. But why do you want the vote? Okay, do you want the power just to say, I've got the power? Or do you want the power to say, do something? I've been, me, I'm a TV buff at work. I binge watch a lot of YouTube and Netflix, because, let's face it, the line's running. You ain't got nothing else to do. And I've been watching Scandal. and the character Joe Morgan, he's plays Olivia's father, and he said something the other day. He says, if you want to affect change, you got to get yourself some power. You can't do anything without power. And it made me think, this is true. So the pursuit of power, the pursuit of knowledge, the pursuit of skills, that's great. But you also got to add to that, if you want to affect change, you've got to have that part. You can't just have power and then you don't have anything to do with that power. I can't just be a good martial artist and train hard if I'm not willing to turn to my next martial arts karateka, who may be slightly less skilled or not even nowhere near as skilled, and not say, hey, I see something you're doing. Let me show you how I did this, and it'll help you out. I can't have compassion. If I don't have compassion, I'm not going to be any good. If people like Master Adams, Master Woods, Master Phillips, Master Maven, Master Shaver, if they didn't have compassion to reach back and look at us and say, okay, you're not cocking that fist right, you're not putting that head up right, we'd have just continued to got hit in the head and busted up our knuckles. They had compassion to show us what we need to do to hopefully one day get to their levels and beyond. And that is a fundamental aspect of the dojo. We talk about respect, that where you have to show respect to your opponent, your teacher. We talk about integrity. We're really rounding it down. Compassion is such a key thing. And when you look at a warrior caste, a samurai, or any warrior, you always think, compassion. Why do you need compassion? You need to have compassion, because if you are the stronger, you are at an advantage. And if you don't look back and realize that you can help those that are less advantaged than you, then what was the point? You're not serving a purpose. You're power without a purpose, and power without a purpose is chaos, and chaos does nothing.
Or worse, power without compassion can be tyranny.
Exactly.
Right? You become an overlord, and that's where you get your dictatorships, and that type of government, or that type of, just, we're all familiar with the Karate Kid movie series from the 80s and now Cobra Kai. But, you look at the example of the Cobra Kai dojo of the 80s and that mindset within the martial arts. There's literally their mantra, right? Hit first, hit hard, no mercy. There's zero compassion there. The whole tournament scene where it was, get a body bag, win at all costs, sweep the leg. There's no compassion there. When I take advantage of your weakness simply to get victory, no compassion. And I agree with you that that's something our society needs to. We need to understand, and as we mentioned earlier, the difference between compassion or sympathy or empathy, because it's a slippery slope, especially with sympathy. This is my opinion. It's easy for sympathetic people to become enablers. I don't think a compassionate viewpoint empowers enabling. And there's a lot of things in our society today that I believe lend more towards sympathy than compassion. And whether that be, social programs or things like that. Going back to our family, my wife and I agreed a long time ago when our kids were very young that we did not want to be enablers of bad behavior. We had seen examples in both of our families where sympathetic emotions enabled bad behavior. One example, out of my family, I had a I hope whoever people are going to hear this in my family and they know what I have to say, but anyway, here it is. So, I had a young cousin who was adopted, and because he was adopted, he was treated a certain way. Oftentimes, his behavior was not checked because he had a different paternal relationship. Everybody was supposed to feel bad but he had every advantage in the world, His home life situation, there was economic means, there was emotional support. He was loved by his adopted family. He was loved by our external family. And there was really no excuse for the way that he acted. And, it was anger at times when he was a young child. And that ended up, as he grew, just getting worse and worse and worse, into where it was a substance abuse issue with drugs and alcohol. And, unfortunately, that ended it in a very horrific situation. And I'm not blaming anybody for the ultimate result, but this young man ended up taking his life at a very young age. So could that have been different? I don't know. We'll never know. But just learning from that example as one, as my wife and I were raising our family, and there's other examples, especially dealing with substance abuse and things like that, where maybe the family would turn a blind eye, or you just don't understand, they're going through a hard time. That kind of mentality, that's sympathy. That's what I see as sympathy or empathy. Well, if I was in their place, I'd probably do the same thing. Compassion, if we take a compassionate look at that and we say, that's not healthy. We need to inject ourselves into that, or provide the means, or sometimes, decouple. Am I being an enabler? Sometimes we have to decouple and back up. And compassion is not always, um, some people equate it to love. Some people will equate compassion to love, and I think love is a little more complex, and our English language does very little to explain love. I think if you go to the Greek, you'll find a much better example. They have 3 or 4 different words for different kinds of love. But enabling is not something that's going to strengthen the overall tribe, and it weakens our society. And I think there's a lot of things that now we call rights, that there's things that are rights that we're starting to give up, like our rights to privacy, and things like that, in exchange for so-called security. And there's other things that are not rights. I think they're great advantages, but no one has a right to a cell phone. I don't think the government should have to supply anybody with a cell phone, for example, on a very low level. But compassion, again, I think is when we get involved or decouple from a situation for the greater good of society as a whole.
Yeah. And again, it goes back to that thin line with empathy and compassion. It goes back to it. One of the I like that analogy you just used with the cell phone. I have to go to work every day. All my kids have cell phones because I go to work every day. They have cell phones because the deal was, you bring me the grades, you do stuff around the house, you make sure you respect your mother. I don't mind getting you one. There was a consequence for that. There was a. I'm drawing blank on the word, or on the word there. I didn't just get you a phone because, well, all your friends have it, and I know you'll feel bad if you don't, and I can understand that. I can empathize, so I'm doing it. No, I didn't enable you to not do anything and still expect a reward. And the funny thing about it, some of the government programs, I have no problem with offering aid to those less fortunate. However, I feel that there should be stronger, I'm just totally blank this morning. There should be stronger requirements. If I'm going to offer you a cell phone, then when you come to pick up your cell phone, you show me where you are. If you have not found a job, you show me that you have put in maybe 10, 12 hours of community service, cleaning something or tutoring something or doing something. You show me how you made a contribution to earn this phone. If I'm going to provide food and nourishment, there are a lot of single moms who desperately need the help. They desperately need the help. And I'm not taking from them. There are a lot of dads out there who just don't step up. I'm just sorry to say. But if I'm going to provide you with the means to care for your kids, then you need to show me how you're actively looking for a job and you're trying to better your situation. Everybody needs help every now and then. Compassion allows me to say, you know what, you're going to need help. So I'm going to give you this right now. And then I'm going to also offer you education so that you can educate yourself, so that you can better yourself, so that you can get your things, and then you can get this for yourself. Okay. If I'm just empathizing, I'm just going to hand out. And what happens is what we see in our system, and this is not, don't get me wrong, I do not mean to insult anyone who's in need of the system right now. But a lot of times you see that vicious cycle where what they call it the welfare families. It's just a perpetual cycle. Oh, I need more money. I'm going to have another kid. That'll get me more money. Oh, we want to get these food stamps. Well, I'm going to have more kids so I can get more of this. Are you trying to get a job, or are you trying to do anything to better yourself? In a lot of instances, you're not. You're expecting the government handout till you feel that you're entitled to that. Well, my question is, why should I work, support my family, pay taxes to support your family if you're not willing to get out and try yourself? Now, of course, we hear that, well, there's no jobs out there. There's no jobs out there. Everywhere I go, I see a hiring sign. I see a hiring sign. I'm just sorry. If you really want to find a job or find a means to make money legally, you can do it. Okay. Subsidized programs are to help you during that process so that you can have that help So now the pressure is off just enough so that now I don't have to worry about doing this. So I can concentrate on this. Okay, great. I found this job. Now I got the job. Okay, great. They're offering classes. That's what it's there for. It's not so you can say, oh, I got it made. The government will take care of this. Plenty of money, you know? And that is where there's a breakdown. There's a breakdown in communication, and society as a whole, you see that. You see that, and you're looking around and you see the community. Is one thing that always bothers me is, why is it that being unemployed or being on social aid or whatever, why does that equate to your house being run down and nasty? If you're not working, if you're sitting at home, clean your house. If you're not doing anything, why are your kids running around crazy? If you are at home, raise your kids. I never understand how, even like poverty, why does it always, a lot of instances, it seems to equate that. I know a lot of people who have very little money, who are basically poverty status, but by their attitude and demeanor, they're like, I know I don't have a lot, but what I have, I'm going to take care of it. I have compassion for you, and I will try to help you and say, you know what? You don't have this, but I know how to do this. I can teach you how to do this so that you can do it. As opposed to, oh, let me just do this for you. Oh, let me just do that for you. Oh, you don't have that. I'll just do that for you. That enables, my oldest son, he was born with Poland syndrome. So one of his arms is slightly smaller, and his hands, he had a syndactyl, which they were kind of webbed together, and it's a handicap. But my wife and I just said early on, we're not going to treat him like that. Now, I have compassion for his situation, but we're not going to enable him to just slack off or feel he's less or whatever, or expect a handout. We took pains to make sure that, okay, if you can't do it this way, we're going to find a way that you can do it. And so now, at 21 years of old, I mean, you forget. You forget, because the kid, he does everything. He comes, he cooks, he cleans, he does whatever. Now, certain things he'll say, say, well, Dad, when we're doing stuff around the house, he says, I can't really help with that because I can't lift that. He says, but what I'll do is I'll organize all this. So it's like in his mind, and we strive, and we tell him, said, listen, do not treat your handicap as a means for sympathy or empathy, or that you're just going to get stuff, or you're not expecting. I expect you to be as productive as possible. Now, you are going to have challenges, and as a result, we've got to make sure that you have the resources to address those challenges. But you, as you grow older, you have to accept the fact, I have challenges, so I don't need you to feel sorry for me. What I need you to do is provide a way so I can do this. There is a difference. And if you come with that core, with that basic knowledge of, okay, I may need help, but what I need help is learning how to do for myself. I may need this handout, but what I need is a way I can get something so I don't have to have a handout. The dojo teaches you that. When you walk in, right off the bat, I cannot fight compared to these other people, but I don't need you to feel sorry for me and take it easy. I need you to throw that punch fast so that I will learn how to block. I need you to come in with that kick so I will learn how to move. I need you to hit me so I will learn how to take a hit. The compassion of my teachers, by showing me that, they're showing me, yeah, I'm going to hurt you a little. I'm not going to kill you. I'm going to hurt you a bit, but I'm going to teach you how not to get hurt. There's a symbiotic relationship between that. Whereas if you just empathize, and you said a lot of dojos, they're not there to teach. They're there for the money, the McDojo system. You got a mom, she brings her kid. Oh, he's shy, he's this and that. Oh, don't worry, we'll teach him. And the kid whines about this. Well, let's give him a promotion to keep him happy, keep the paycheck coming. The kid doesn't want to do his basics. Okay, well, if you don't want to do your basics, come over here and we'll find you something else to do. That's not compassion. That's not teaching. That's not even smart. Because now what you've done is you've just shown this child that whatever you don't want to do, if you act up a bit, you can get your way. And society doesn't work that way. You act up in society, they put you in alternative society, which is jail. Or if you really act up in society against the wrong person, you go into an alternate reality, which is death. And you got to learn early on that I can have compassion for you, but I'm not going to enable you. I'm not going to just say, oh, I feel so bad for you. Here, take all of this. Oh, no, 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 no. I'm going to be like, okay, you're in a bad situation. What happened? Okay, well, what skills do you have? All right, tell you what, I'm going to help you do this. I'm going to teach you how to do this. I'm going to help you find resources to help you do that. That's that call to action. And that is what we really need to see happening more. We need to have compassion, but we don't need to have as much sympathy or as much empathy. You've got a lot of the immigrants coming over, and you have to stop. There's a lot of negative views on that. Why are they coming here? Supposedly it's because this country is going to offer them the chance to make something. So if someone comes to my country, I'm not just going to be mad, not to single out any race, but like the Mexicans or Latinos coming from Mexico. I can't be mad at these people for doing whatever they can to get to a place that's going to try to give them a better life. Okay. I'm not going to have sympathy for you. And just because you had to cross the border illegal and struggle, well, yeah, you come on in and you do this. Okay. No, I'm not going to have that. What I'm going to say is, you made it. Okay. What skills do you have? Okay. Tell you what, I'm going to help you figure out how to do this so you can get your citizenship. I'm going to help you to figure this so you can have a job. I have a company. I'm going to give you a job. But while you're working for me, you're going to take steps to become a proper citizen. You're going to, like you said, the tyranny, if I have the power, I can't become a tyrant and say, okay, I've got you. You're going to work for cheap, because if you don't, I'm telling you, that's tyranny. But if I say, okay, I'm going to allow you to work for me, but while you're working for me, you're going to be taking tests for your green card. You're going to be trying to find out everything you need. That's the compassion. That's the compassion. And if we could look at that system and work that way, I think our country would be greater. But instead, we go into the sympathy route. Oh, I feel so bad. Let's just give them food. Let's give them clothes. Give them this, give them that, give them that. Or the opposite route. They're drained, they're leeches, send them all back. No, where's the compassion? Unfortunately, the Indians, the early Native Americans, had compassions for the pilgrims. They brought them, they showed them. If they had just said, here's food, here's food, the pilgrims would have never learned how to hunt, survive, or do anything. They would have never learned the benefits of corn. Okay. Now, unfortunately, that compassion kind of backfired, and we all know the story. But it still shouldn't prevent you from attempting to show the compassion. If you look throughout history, all down throughout world history, there's always at some point compassion is what led you to do something. You look at the World War II. Okay, Hitler originally, he felt for his people. He felt the Germans were being mistreated and misrepresented by the Jewish. He felt this. He wanted to do something about this. He had compassion for the plight of his people and mobilized to come up. Then he got the power, got the support, and then he turned to abject tyranny. He said, okay, I've got the power. Now we're going to slaughter them all. And it became a horrific thing. But the compassion of the other countries, America, France, everyone, we saw that plight. We could have easily said, oh, yeah, let's just sneak them food in. Let's sneak them food. We didn't. We felt the plight. We mobilized. It says, we've got to stop this, man. We're going to help you stop this. The world is going to come together to stop this, okay? That is one of the most profound examples of compassion you can see. We saw wrong. The world saw wrong, and the world joined together to stop the other countries, Italy, Germany, Japan, those countries that we're going to stop this together. We're not going to sit back and say, we're going to send you money to buy weapons. We're going to send you guns. Okay. But we're going to empathize and we have sympathy. No, we have compassion for you. Because we have compassion, we're going to get in the fight with you. We're going to get it in the mud, in the blood, and we're going to help you. That is the attitude that America and the world seems to be losing. It's easy to blame. It's easy to just write a check and say, I've done something. But if you look at the root cause, if you truly have compassion, you will not only write the check, you will find out where the check is going, and if there's something else you can do other than write a check, and if this person will really be helped by that check. Because I need to know that. If I want to help you, I want to know that that help is going to be used properly. I don't want to just be, I feel so bad for you. No, I want to be like, I feel bad for you. I'm going to get in there and figure out what we can do to get you out of that. That's compassion. And that's what we need. So as always, I always ask you a question. How do we get to that? How do we kind of lose our empathy or antipathy that we seem to have, and animosity? How do we get back to the point that we have power? So now let us use our power to actually help, as opposed to we have power. How do we get back to that sense of that dutiful compassion on a worldwide scale?
Well, from the aspect of the dojo, me as a teacher, as a sensei, and in my own school, and even as a father, first and foremost, you have a set of standards, right? We have rules, and those rules have to be applied equally to everyone. So parents out there, if you have your kids in a martial arts program and they lay out a set of criteria and your child is being promoted through the ranks without adequately being able to perform that set of criteria, you know, it's equivalent to graduating high school and not being able to read, right? We have some very general criteria for public education that should be applied equally to everybody. But we all know examples of for like a great athlete that goes through the system simply because he can play the game. And that's a disservice not only to that person, but to everyone else in the system. You can see how that lowers the standard of the entire system. Within my own family, if I don't apply the rules equally to everybody, then it lessens me in the eyes of my family. It builds animosity between my children. And the same thing happens in our citizenry when the laws are not applied equally to all citizens. Compassion has to come from the top down. Compassion is always going to be uh, driven from a position of, whether you want to call it a superior position, I guess saying that not because that person is better, but they're in a better position. Okay, whatever the situation is, I'm in a more advantageous position than the other person that's struggling in that with me, or struggling in that manner. So in order for me to help them, obviously I can't be suffering in the same manner they are within that particular event, whatever it is. If I'm going to have compassion and I'm going to interject and I'm going to help elevate them, I have to do it from the top up, or from the top down, not the bottom up. So again, it really comes back to the home, comes back to the school, comes back to, the dojo. And again, I think I came up that way. I think, our Southfield experience was great. And I've been blessed. Every other dojo that I've ever, been a part of for any length of time um, has been under very caring instruction, where it really was the microcosm of society. So we have to teach our kids, and how to look at others and see them through compassionate eyes, and foster that willingness to care. There's another word that I'd like to interject here, and that, because compassion has to come from a position of power, and walking that line between compassion and tyranny, the word that I've come to understand and really try to embody is meek. I think in Western society, we have a very poor understanding of what it is to be meek. We want to misconstrue that with weakness. When we say a man is meek, we want to look at him as somebody who is maybe frail, or something less than strong. The true meaning of the word meek is restrained power. And I came to understand this word through biblical studies. And if you look at the biblical references of the word meek, or the Greek for the word meek, that a lot of times Greek will give you word pictures. Well, the Greek word picture for the word meek is a bridled horse. It's restrained power. So that's the best example of a good martial artist that I can think of, right? We don't want to be tyrannical bullies simply because we have the physical ability to hurt somebody.
What we often equate with, we use it in place of meek, is humble.
Humble.
We use humble, and we have like one of the best living examples of that through Master Adams. Sensei is power personified, in my opinion. The way he walks, the way he moves, when he's standing still, you can literally see the energy radiating from him. When he speaks, you can feel the authority of his lessons. But he is the most humble person. When you meet him, he's very genial. You know, he does not lord it over you. Whether you're the newest of the newest student or the highest of the highest don he's trained, he treats everyone the same. He is restrained power until it's time for that power to be, to be shown. And that, to me, as you said, that allows him to be in a position of authority, but allows him to have the compassion that's been shown to us over the years in the dojo. And I think that, I don't know, the dojo, maybe we're biased because we've been training so long, but to me, the dojo is just the perfect place to get all of the essential elements that you need to have a productive life. Like we're going down the codes of Bushido, and we've talked about integrity, and and we go through everything with respect and honor and courage. Compassion is essential if you want to be a complete person. Because if you don't have compassion, it doesn't matter if you have integrity, if you're not willing to help someone. It doesn't matter if you have courage, if you're not brave enough to put yourself out there to help someone. You see what I'm saying? It doesn't matter if you respect me, if you let me flounder and never even lift a finger to try to show me what I could have done different. It's all connected. You always said it best, is that the dojo is the perfect microcosm of society. It's the framework in which we drape our life on. And compassion is just right up there with that framework. And we're fortunate that we do have examples of that, living, breathing examples through our training, through our teachers, various senseis. I've had the pleasure of working with so many folks. One of the I've done a lot of training with Master Carl Martin. He has a school down in Philly. And when you meet Master Martin, he's another person who's power personified. He's big, he's imposing, he has an imposing voice, the direct stare. But when you talk to him, when you converse with him, at no point do you feel less than what you are. He lets you know right up front, I expect high things from you, and I will help you do that because I set myself on a standard. So I want you to set yourself on a standard. We have a tradition. Me and Master Fred George, we used to go down to Philly and train with him when he were younger. And, it's like every time I see him, one of his traditions, he always smacks me in the back of the head. I mean, for 20 years, he smacks me in the back of the head. And it's like, to me, that symbol, that familiarity, and it's just like, it's like the love. It's an effect. It's a slap of affection. It's like one of the things that we were at a Grand National a few years back, and we came to watch, and he says, "You're not in your gi." I said, "Yes, Sensei." He said, "You ain't been training?" I said, And right when I did it, he smacked me in the back of the head, and he said, "You know better." And that told me right there. He wasn't saying you know better as just to say you. He was saying, you got to be in this dojo because this is where you need to be. This is where your life will be. You should be right here with me in this gi. And those kind of examples really help me to say, okay, I can do better. I've got to do better. And by me saying that about myself, it makes it easier for me if I become a person in a position of power to look back at you and say, you can do better. You can do better. And I'm not saying that because I'm better than you. I'm saying that because I was once not as good as I am, and I had help to get there. And I want you to be as good as you can be. I want you to stand in the light with me. Okay. I don't want to outshine you. Right now, my sun is brighter than yours because you haven't learned to step out of the shade. I want to show you how to step out of the shade so we can shine together. And now we can cast our light on someone else who may need to step out of the shade. That's the true essence of compassion. I want you to stand in the light with me. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Now, if you choose not to do it, that's on you. And at that point, I have to cut ties because I can't say, well, you're not making the effort to shine in the light, so I'll keep allowing you to soak up my sun. No, because that enables you to continue to not do nothing. So what benefit is that? Like you said, compassion is not to be confused with sympathy or empathy, which are great enablers. And we have to make that distinction. I think that's something that, we teach our kids that. I know you teach yours that. I think all parents should at some point discuss the differences with their friends, because kids come to you all the time. Excuse me. You're getting older. They're teenagers. Some of their friends want to experiment with with drugs or alcohol or whatever. And, hey man, we're going to go to the party. You drive because you don't drink. We're going to get drunk. And, the peer pressure, okay, man, I'll drive. And your kid may feel bad about that. Teach your child to say that, hey, no, you don't have to do that. I can feel compassionate about you and say, yeah, man, I understand you want to party. I get that. But however, I'm not going to enable you to go out and get yourself drunk by being your fall to driver guy. I'm not doing that because that's not part of my belief. Now, if you want to go to the party and provide a way to get yourself home and put out a plan, yeah, I'll help you do that. But I'm not going to always be your fall guy because you want to act bad. That's sympathy, you know? And I understand why you're getting drunk because you're at home and you're going through life is bad. That's empathy. Okay. But it still enables you to do that. But hey, man, I understand you why you want to get drunk. But why don't we find someone you could talk to? I understand your dad's doing this. I know a person that helped me through this. Let me help you find someone, blah, blah, blah. That's compassion. I'm in a position where I see something different and I'm going to help you to see it too. And that's what we need to do. We need to teach our kids the difference in that. And it's for us, it's kind of easy to say, what's what and what isn't, because we've been blessed to have good situations. We've been blessed to experience bad situations in our life and been able to pull ourselves up out of those. But it was with the help of others that it often happened. And that sparked something in us to make us want to reach back and do that too. We need to have a conversation around the world of what compassion really means. We need to have a conversation with President Trump about what true compassion means. Don't offer something because you can and lord it over everybody. Offer it because this will help you do the right thing. Same thing with the Democrats. Do not fight this man or fight the Republicans on every little thing because you have the position to do so. If a Republican comes up with an idea that can truly help society, you've got to let them, have the sense, have the compassion for the people you're supposed to be protecting to say, okay, this was not my idea. However, I can see how it will help you. So because I wanted to help you, I'm going to support this. Compassion comes in many forms and it's weaved really ways and it's really subtle and it's very unsubtle, but it's a necessary trait that we need to develop and need to cultivate. And I just wish that we could have more of our leaders show what true compassion is, show what that means, show what the power to do something, why you should do it. And this is how you do it. I wish we had more examples of that, even in our television programs. The greatest examples of compassion are superheroes. These are people with the greatest power. And again, we go back to that great power, great responsibility. Superman is the most powerful being on the planet. And he devotes himself to helping those less fortunate than him and showing them how you've got to do this better. Okay. Not, I'm going to fix this for you. It's going to be done. I'm going to pull you out of this and I'm going to show you the way where you can go make it better for yourself. Okay. That's true compassion. That's what we need to go at. We got to get to that point.
Yeah, I think, for you and I, you brought up the fact that we've both got a pretty long history in martial art. Oh, close to 30 years. We're 20 plus years training. And yeah, for us, that for sure, the dojo, a microcosm of society, for sure. For us, it's a part of our everyday life. It's what we do. One of the most powerful things, I think, in the dojo, the thing that bonds and builds relationships within the dojo is our common struggle, regardless of race, religion, or creed. When we enter the dojo, we are physically and emotionally struggling toward a goal. My goal is an individual goal, and so is yours, but we're both heading in the same direction, right? We want to be the best martial artist, the best karateka, the best judoka, the best, jujitsu, whatever that you can be within your peer group. And by doing so, we're strengthening the dojo as a whole, which is strengthening the system as a whole, which is just overall growth. So it's that struggle on an individual basis together, that builds strength in the organization or the society. In this case, the martial arts society.
And what's nice is if you can foster it in the dojo, and then like you said, we have everyday lives, if you can take that out of the dojo, then it is going to filter into other aspects of your life. Whether you're at work, you're going to have that attitude. At home with your family, you're going to have the attitude. And then that is how you can build a better society. But it's like you said, we learn it at the dojo.
Yeah. It's that struggle together though, right? I can't decouple myself in the building you up or bringing you along. I can't decouple myself from the struggle,
Right.
or empower you or enable you by simply, you brought up a great example, by simply giving cash or, rewarding bad behavior in some manner, whether it's a social program. Southeastern Kentucky and the Appalachian area, as I've mentioned in the past, is degrading at a very rapid pace due to what I would call, so the social programs. They're just degrading us at our foundation, by rewarding and enabling bad behavior. It's killing the basic desire for people to want to self-improve. They've learned to just, we've had this discussion in the past. They're just becoming very
Complacent.
Exactly. Very complacent. So, that enabler or mentality is very bad. Compassion in the dojo, I think, as a teacher, me working with all my students, seeing what their individual struggles are, because everybody's struggle is different, and everybody has some people struggle with different aspects. I got people that do great kata, but kumite is not their thing, or they
Vice
don't
versa.
want to grapple. They suffer on the ground. That's not my strength, but it's still something that I have to do because I know I may end up there sometime. But working with people in their weaknesses and trying to build up their weak points and make them better overall is really what we're trying to do. Now, again, take that out of the dojo into the workforce. I'm a manager, so I have those that work for me, that I'm their direct supervisor. And compassion's a very important element of managing. Sometimes I've struggled with that in the past, but my job is not to belittle or dictate or, to be a tyrant of a manager over those that report to me, the 6 or 8 engineers that work for me, but to try to help them succeed. I need to make sure they have every tool possible and every resource possible that they can succeed in their daily task. So rather than honestly them working for me, I try to make sure I work for them and do as much as I can to help them be successful. And through their success, we all succeed. And I think that's really ultimately where compassion plays a role. Taking it back to, the samurai as being holders of land and having that serf class underneath them. We don't have serf classes and lords, but we do have employees and bosses at different levels. I know in the plant environment where you work, you have probably a area leader and an area supervisor, and the chain of command just goes up. But if that falls apart anywhere along the way, then the overall organization suffers. And if I allow,
oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
If I allow those beneath me to fail, then we all fail.
Uh-oh. Cut out for a second.
Yeah,
the last thing I got was if you allow those beneath you to fail, we all fail. Did you say something after that? Because we lost connection.
No, yeah, it started to freeze up. But that was it. So again, from the top down, we have to make sure that those beneath us who are struggling, either one, you cut them loose, because if they won't strive with the group, then the whole group's going to get pulled down with them, right? So that's at decoupling. You try to work compassion, and if compassion is not, some people aren't going to respond to compassion. They're going to expect sympathy, right? They're going to expect sympathy, or they're going to expect empathy. They just want somebody to grieve with them or suffer with them, and they don't want to improve their situation. Those you have to cut loose, right? That's just something that's dragging everybody down. And you're going to have that in the dojo, with your students. You're going to have those that just don't want to get any better, so they suffer as white belts, and eventually, they weed themselves out. Or you have to take a stand and say, listen, this is not working out. You obviously don't want to be here. You're taking my attention away from people who want to be here. Therefore, you have to leave. Yes. Happens that way in the workforce, and it happens that way in society, right? We segregate those people and we put them in prisons. But compassion, we're going to struggle together, and you're going to work alongside a person until they're at a place where they can stand on their own and they're continuing to advance and do better. And then you can, kind of decouple yourself from that situation, because now they're stable. The first rule of life saving, if you've ever flown on a plane, right? If the plane's going down and the mask fall, you put your own mask on first, then you help somebody else, right? Well, if you're drowning, you have to first, you better be able to swim before you jump in the water and try to help somebody else. Again, I can't say this enough, or I don't think we can stress it enough. Compassion is always going to be from the top down. So you fundamentally, as an individual, need to have your stuff together, or you won't be able to help anybody. You got to help yourself first, and then you can help somebody else. You don't want to be teaching bad habits.
And it's easy to do that if you're not careful. It is easy to do that, teach a bad habit, which is why we have to hold ourselves to that higher standard. One of the things with the dojo that I've always been known for is my Sai work. I mean, people always tell me I'm a Sai man. That I love my Sai. And even now when I'm training and I'm doing stuff, people are always saying, "Well, you twirl those things. How do you do that?" Blah, blah. Because this is a position of power for me. Every time someone says or comments on my Sai work and they have their size, I immediately say, well, let me see how you're holding yours. Let me see what you're doing. Okay, this is what I did to get to this point. These are the exercises I do to get to this point. This is the training that I do to get to this point. To me, it's great getting the compliment. It's great being acknowledged for that skill. But to me, it's irresponsible if I don't take those kudos and then turn around and say, thank you. I got here through hard work. Let me show you how I got here. Because maybe then you can stand next to me and we can both be great. And now you can help the next person. So it is so important when you have the power and you can show someone some compassion. It is so important to do that. We had a situation at work just yesterday. It's funny how and you mentioned this. One of the newer employees, real nice guy, real big guy, And when you get these big guys, they automatically want to throw them on the hardest jobs. Now, I've had some big guys put on my job, and to put it kindly, they were pathetic. They were big guys, and they act like little ants. Nothing bothers me more than a person who's physically able to, but whines and complains, okay? This guy's not like that. He came in, he's big, he's strong, he's determined to work. They've been consistently putting him on one or two jobs. So he was really frustrated. He went to the team leader and he was, can I train on something else, blah, blah, blah. And he's getting, steady getting the negative. So to me, he was working by me. He just started venting. And, he's new. I've been there 22 and a half years. And so I told him, I said, you know what? First of all, you got to don't take it personal. Okay. You're taking it a little personal here. Bring yourself out of that. Now, what you got to do is you got to keep asking. Okay. And if your team leader is not doing it, then you go to the area manager. I said, so you don't know who the area manager is. I know who it is. I said, the next time I see him, I'm going to say, hey, we've got a guy down here. I think he's a good worker. Maybe you should see if he can train on some more stuff. So as it so happens, later in the day, our area manager came through and he said, he comes in here, Art, what's going on? And we're talking. He said, oh, by the way, my man down here, he was asking me, how is it that you can start learning other jobs? He's really determined to, and he's pretty much just only doing this. He was like, really? He went down and they chatted for a good while. So then they walked up. He came up to me. The guy says, Art, oh my God, start Monday. I'm going to be training. He says, whatever you want to learn, I'm happy to do that. Because I was in a position to help. You know, I could have easily just sat there and said, yeah, man, I hear you, man, which is what a lot of folks do. Yeah, this place sucks, man. Don't you know what? Don't even stress on it. Just do what they say, take the money and run. I could have done that. You know, I could have empathized. I could have had sympathy. So yeah, I get you, man. You know, don't even try to keep doing on this, man. But I didn't want to do that. I wanted him to come to appreciate the job that we have the way I appreciate it. So I used my little power, which is my knowledge, to facilitate that. And it was a great feeling. It felt great that not only did he come and appreciate it, but it felt great because now this person, his interest was renewed, you know, his enthusiasm was renewed, which means now as he's learning these jobs, he's going to help build a better product. I'm going to help build a better product. So now that truck comes off the line, instead of having one or two, you know, really excited people and the rest apathetic, you've got several people who are really excited to build this product. Because if you have a good product, guess what? It sells. And if it sells, guess what? We continue to eat. And to me, that, as you said, that compassion, it strengthens the whole. If you reach down and help someone to achieve and to rise up, then they reach down and so forth and so forth. Then we've got a whole line of people that are trying their best, because we all understand that at the end, we're all in this together. And again, like you said, it starts from the top down. But if you have a position of power, if you don't recognize that you need to have compassion, if you just stick to the tyranny aspect of it, then you're failing. There's no point in you being a leader, because you're not a true leader unless you truly lead. And you can't truly lead unless you help others along the way. And that's the simple as me. Just, I can tell you what to do all day long, but I need to tell you why I'm telling you, this is what I need you to do. And this is the results. This is where we're going to get to. That makes more sense. This is what I'm telling you to do. Shut up and do it. Come on. When does that ever work? Even the military, which is strict discipline, they tell you, you are going to do this, this, and this because it will help you survive. You know, we are making you regimented because you've got to be able to snap to in an instant in order to survive. You see what I'm saying? So there's a method to it.
Yeah, and there again, I'm gonna borrow your word of dichotomy, because it does come in stages, and depending on the situation. Because you know as well as I do, whether it's at work or whether it's in the dojo, initially, yes, you're told to do. You know, Sensei tells you to go stand in the corner and jump, because you know him. You know there's an advantage to it. So you're going to go do it. You know, you're going to go over there and do circle steps for as long as you have to, because that's what he told you to do, right? Don't be distracted by punches. I want you to go over there and just do crescent steps back and forth across the mat. Mm-hmm. And he's probably not going to tell you why the first time.
He's not going to.
What you're going to do first, you know, and you're just going to go do it. But when you start to see, as you mentioned with your coworker, their demeanor falling, right? You see the stress or the distress. That's when empathy comes into play. You know, the same thing in the military. You have to, you know, follow orders initially, but when morale starts to degrade, that's when the compassion has to come in from the top down and say, listen, this is why we're doing this. It's to make us all overall better. But sometimes you just have to do what you're told.
Of course you do.
Unfortunately,
and you've got to accept that fact too. There's sometimes in life you just got to do what you're told.
Yeah, but like you mentioned, especially in the workforce and, you know, working in that plant environment, you see people get distraught and, you know, burn out, I guess, a little bit from just the repetition, and they don't often see any advantage other than the paycheck at the end of the week, and quality does start to degrade sometimes because there's less and less, you know, care for what they're doing. And again, that's when leaders, as you mentioned, leaders have to step in and remind them, you know, you and I both work in the automotive industry, and it's so important sometimes to remind people, you know what, none of you walk to work today. You know, you don't want to go out in your driveway and turn that key and your car not start, or halfway between point A and point B, something happened. Or worse than that, your wife or your child, something happened to them and they're stranded somewhere. You know, as a producer of a product, we have to have compassion for the end user, right? So that kind of drives quality in everything that everybody does. If we're always looking forward, like I said, it's from the top down. I'm producing a product for a consumer. I have the power to make that to the best of my ability or to make it something less. Same thing in the dojo. When when you go in the dojo to train as a student, it's your responsibility to do it 100%. And as a teacher, when I see my student lacking or not giving effort, and everybody's going to have a bad day, but if I see a person's having a bad day and I know they're not producing to 100%, first thing I'm going to do is ask them, hey, what's going on? Why are you struggling in this particular, whatever it is that day that they're, that we might be doing. You're not doing your rope work, with the same enthusiasm that you would ordinarily do. Why, what's going on, and if they don't have a legitimate reason, then, somebody's going to get their feelings hurt, as Fred would say, right? So, but if they do, I'm like, okay, I understand. Now I understand, and I may give them words of encouragement or, just do your best, but try to encourage them and lift them up. And sometimes compassion's that simple. The example that you gave there with your coworker, not only did that help him, but now he's going to be more willing in the future to help somebody else. So you have that exponential growth that we seem to lack in society because it's become in everybody, it's all about me, right? It's that me relationship with everything. It's like there's so many people out there that now want to climb to the top by whatever means necessary. If that's stepping on your head and driving you down, and we all know people like that socially, we all know people like that in business, and we know people like that in the martial arts.
Yes, unfortunately, even at the
Teachers out
dojo,
there,
we know people like that.
yeah, there are teachers out there that their whole goal is to hold people back. They got to be the biggest, baddest guy in the room or gal in the room to satisfy their ego. An ego is the worst enemy of compassion.
Yes.
It's that thing that you got to have to improve, but at the same time, you have to keep in check that you don't become that tyrannical, person or that tyrannical entity, because that's exactly what drives that. Hitler, you mentioned Hitler earlier.
Mm-hmm.
He almost began to see himself as a godlike character, and in that aspect, he became
atrocious,
what we all know him to be. Yeah, he tried to annihilate an entire race, and create an entire, or elevate a race.
And unfortunately, aspects of his I like to call it lunacy is still affecting us to this day, which is why we have so much derision and the hate groups and everything. It's terrible.
Well, ideology, it is the nature of humans since the beginning. We have the example of Cain and Abel. So that is part of the human struggle, right? That was brother on brother, one murdered the other. And the famous question there, when God asked Cain, where's your brother? He said, am I my brother's keeper? The answer is yes, you are your brother's keeper.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where compassion comes into play. If my brother suffers, I suffer.
Mm-hmm.
So we do need to have compassion. We do need to see ourselves as our brother's keeper. And that's the only way. And not to blur the lines with, again, sympathy and empathy. If all that is, if sympathy and empathy is all that I have, then we're all going to de-escalate to the lowest common denominator, and we're going to pout and mourn together
and fade away together.
and fade away together, right? Through compassion and me seeing myself as my brother's keeper, we're going to elevate. I'm going to build you up. The guy in front of me is going to build me up. And hopefully, the entire organism, society as a whole, is going to get better. That's ultimately what we want to do. For you and I, and those in our circle, martial arts is that tool that we use to
Right.
to build each other up at the core. And we try to take that and radiate it outward into our sphere of influence.
One of the habits I have with my sons is I always tell them, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a disciplinarian, but I'm also a cool dad, but I'm a disciplinarian. And one of the things I always tell them, it says, listen, in terms of ego, sometimes the fathers can take that ego and they want to kind of keep that subservient, keep their kids, let I'm the daddy and all that. I try to control that. I always tell my kids, I don't want you to be as good as me. I want you to be better than me. I don't want you to have a car as nice as mine. I want you to have a car better than mine. I want you to be happier than me. In order to do that, I've got to make sure you're giving it your all. So if I'm hard on you, it's not because I'm hard on you because you need to do what I say. I'm hard on you because, well, you do need to do what I say, but I want you to do what I say so that you can achieve more than I ever dreamed of. Unfortunately, in our society, you see a lot of this where parents get into competitions with their children. And to me, that is the worst thing. I look toward the day where my kids, and they don't have to have jobs where they're making tons and tons of money. If they do, that's great. But if you found a career and a partner and a home and you are happy and content, to me, you're successful. And that's what I want to see. I want to see you more happier than me. I want to see you more content than me. I want to see you be a better man than I was. And I want to help you achieve that. And to me, if we take that and take it into every aspect of life, if you're a boss, I want my employees to understand why I'm driving them. It's because I want us as a whole to get there. In the dojo, you need to know why I'm going to make you hit this bag 50 times, because I want your punch to be good. Because when you walk out of here and you hit somebody, I want you to know that what I taught you can save your life or your loved one. When I'm building that truck, I get asked this a lot. It's funny when engineers come down and they see how I do my job and they watch me do it. They're like, man, you do that good. They said, why do you do that so good? So you can have time? I said, no. I said, I learned every aspect. I said, because every truck that I touch, somebody's loved one is getting in this truck and it might be mine. So I got to make sure this I'm doing, at least I can say, when I see those Rams running up and down the street, I know the tires that I put on and tightened and everything and the cables that I connection, I know those cables were done right. I did them right. And if I didn't do it right, I'm going to be quick to say, hey, I didn't get that defect. You know, you've got to have that. You've got to have that. And it's like you said, position, it all comes down to, if you're in a position of power, you have to have the compassion to reach down to help those who are not achieve so that they too can do it, so that we can perpetuate it and move forward with it. And on that note, Sensei, we are coming up on almost hour and 10 minutes here. So why don't you give us our closing thoughts so we can let these good people go enjoy their weekend.
Yeah. As always, I want to thank everybody that, time is by far the most valuable thing any of us have. And if you're sharing yours with us, I really want to give you guys thanks right now. But our topic today has been that of compassion. And just to redefine it, care and kindness, especially when we think of the needs of others, it's a call to action. So without action, there is no compassion. And we've mentioned several times that it comes from a superior position or a top-down position. But regardless of your position, somebody around you is struggling. If you look, you'll find some place where you can give aid to others. Some experience you've had, some some resource that you have abundance of can be used by somebody else. And we just want to encourage you to share, look for the needs of the people around you and share in whatever you can offer. And that is compassion at work.
All right. You heard it there. And on that note, I want to thank you for tuning in, everyone. Please be safe out there. Unfortunately, the pandemic is still going on, so follow proper protocols to keep yourself and your family safe. Same thing with everything else. And since we're coming on the election, I want to urge everyone to please vote. No matter your opinion, it still matters. Your voice does matter. So please vote. If you can't get to the polls, please take advantage of your absentee ballots. Let's do our civic duty. If you got something to say about your leadership, go ahead and vote so that you have the right to say it. And with that note, this is Sensei Gulley saying have a great weekend.
Sensei Ellis, thank you again for your time. We'll see you all next week.